MeMonster.
Chapter 111. Saintess Bianca's 20th birthday was approaching. The Empire held its largest banquet to commemorate her birthday. The glamorous chandelier was embedded with colorful jewels and spirits orbited around it, and magic lamps floating in the air, lighting the night sky. This magnificent stage unfolded in iridescent lights, dazzling everyone who saw this. All the nobles of the Empire gathered to see the face of the Saintess. "It's really gorgeous. I've never seen a banquet like this since I was born. Moreover, this banquet is held for only one person." Was the rumor about His Majesty yearning for the Saintess true? "Hey, this guy, what if someone hears you?" "Why, it's a fact that everyone knows." "Is that so?" Even the royal family from other countries couldn't help but be in awe in front of this banquet, which was more luxurious than the emperor's birthday banquet itself. Just how much was the budget for this banquet, and all this was held only for one woman? How much does the emperor love her? Suddenly, the festive hall became dead silent. All of them couldn't help but to do that because of one presence. Step, step. It was Saintess Bianca. She entered the hall wrapped in a dress with a beautiful harmony of white and gold. It was a dress which could only be worn by the priestesses of goddess of time and season. Even though she wore no jewelry, she glowed more than anyone else. Even though she wasn't dressed up nicely, she was more glamorous than anyone else. It was as if all the bright lights in the world were focused on her. As she walked with a gracious step towards the center of the banquet hall, 3 priestesses followed closely behind her. "Your Majesty, you are here, Bianca." Bianca smiled at the emperor. "It's a banquet for you." The ruler of the empire, Cyril, he was a very obsessive man. He had everything Bianca wanted inside the imperial palace. It was something he did in order to somehow hold Bianca to himself. The most beautiful jewelry, the coolest statue, the most brilliant lighting, the most expensive trinket, the most romantic picture, the most. Everything that had the most attached to its name in the whole empire was shipped to the imperial palace for the sole purpose of Saintess Bianca. Every time she liked it, every time she was happy, Cyril was happy too. However, even after all that, Bianca still didn't show any reaction. Cyril's heart felt more and more stuffy with every passing day. He really longed for her. All he could think every day was a way to make Bianca his own. "Let's dance to one song." "Your Majesty, shouldn't you say something like, 'Lady, would you please dance with me?'" "I can't say that." "Then I won't dance with you, Your Majesty." She had the nerve to say something that could have her sentenced to death in an instant, but for female protagonist it was okay. That was the thought Autumn had while silently watching her from the corner of the hall. "You're really shaking the shit out of this world." While shoving a fried corn to his mouth, Autumn glanced over towards Princess Sahar Serenity, who stood alone in the balcony. Her figure was really pitiful. It was really an unfortunate turn of events. Princess Sahar Serenity and Saintess Bianca's birthday overlapped. Originally, she might have been the protagonist who danced in the middle of the banquet, blessed by everyone, holding the hand of her beloved emperor and dancing with a beautiful smile like a flower. However, despite her appearance or being one of the most famous figures in the whole empire, no one paid any attention to her. However, in Autumn's eye, it was only natural because the protagonist, Bianca, was using the passive skill attraction Monopoly SSS rank. A skill that slightly surpassed Supreme Dharma's Bewitch SS rank, which radiated his charm. She was using a skill given by Protagonist Correction to absorb all charms around her and make it her own. No matter how beautiful Princess Sahar was, in the end, she was only a shabby weed in front of the protagonist. "Princess, are you okay?" "I am not okay." She was trying to avoid looking at the emperor. She had dedicated her life to the emperor and decided to live for him again in her second life. But what was the point of all that? She felt skeptical about her own life. However, Autumn didn't have time to comfort her. In the first place, he didn't have any confidence to comfort her. Autumn values efficiency the most. He only moves for the sake of hunting. "But I'm glad to hear about what's going on here." Princess Sahar was a regressor. She knew about the events that would take place at this banquet. However, a regressor would always be one step behind the reader. a reader would unconditionally know about any information that the regressor didn't know, but that's not a problem. Basically, Bianca's behavior is similar to me. She would use any kind of information for her own gain. Bianca, who had already finished dancing with the Emperor, was now dancing with Haryun, the best mage of the Empire as well as the Magic Tower Master of the Empire. Hoo-hoo, it looks like you've got the entire galaxy in your eyes today, Bianca. You are really cheesy. Am I that soft I want to be your own oil? UC Autumn overheard their conversation, and he stumbled in the air. You crazy bastards. Haryun continued, without considering the rotten ears of the eavesdropper in the corner. By the way, when is your next activity? What are you talking about? Haha, you don't have to pretend in front of me. I know that Black Lady Wizard who appears whenever a crisis hits the Empire and solves it before disappearing once again is you. I told you it's not me. Hoo-hoo, don't you know that everyone in the Empire knows that it's you? The Black Lady Wizard, probably it was Arakella's nickname. She had black hair and she always appeared with a mask whenever an incident occurred, and then she would disappear after solving the incident with brilliant magic. However, there was a problem. Bianca was also always in the scene when the incident occurs. She also had a black hair and her attractive Monopoly skills would always attract everyone's attention. That's why people misunderstood Arakella's action as Bianca's. I am really not Tilda. Bianca enjoyed such subtle interest from others, so she didn't deny it clearly. It wasn't in the original story, it doesn't matter. Suddenly, her partner had changed once again. This time it was Sodier, the world's best swordsman. Having wandered around the world carrying his regrets, he accidentally met Bianca and fell in love at first sight. I picked it up, have it. Oh, this is the second heart of the Phoenix. Seems like that guy is crazy too. UC Autumn looked closely at those 4 male leads. A holy knight, Pope Kane Tanker, he had a great balance of both offense and defense. Emperor Cyril Allrounder, he had mastered the Empire's swordsmanship as well as the Empire's magic and had both wealth and fame. Chief Wizard of the Imperial Palace, Haryun Long-Range Dealer. World's Strongest Swordsman, Sodier Damage Dealer. They were the characters that could be moved by Bianca through probability. Bianca's way of doing things resembled UC Autumn's a lot. She was using other people's knowledge against themselves and leading them to their own ruin. However, while UC Autumn executed all the plans by himself, Bianca was passively standing still. The male leads were the one who would move because of the probability. In other words, the 4 male leads were the protagonist correction itself. But what will happen if UC Autumn cancels that effect? In order to do so, UC Autumn had told Princess Sahar beforehand that he had to go to meet Arakeli. Princess, as I said, I will be gone for a while. Okay. UC Autumn felt that everything that could be figured out had already been figured out. The best way to deal with a regressor was to use the information they had against them. But what if the other person has more information than himself? What should he do? UC Autumn thought that this quest could be quite dangerous, but he couldn't just go back. It took 1 year of life force to tear down the dimension wall for a few seconds. He didn't think all of his remaining life force would be enough if he decided to give up this quest and return. Anyway, from the moment I received the very first quest from the day I debuted as a hunter 16 years ago, I was prepared to fight for all of my life. UC Autumn calmed his nervous heart. He had never fought with full certainty that he could win, so this tension was similar to what he always felt. If the transmigrator knows everything about the regressor, he should simply create an event that even the regressor does not know. UC Autumn pulled out E4 composite bombs from his inventory. Princess Sahar was sipping on her champagne and looking outside the terrace. In the garden under the grace of snow, man and woman were roaming in pairs. Her heart felt empty after UC Autumn, who always told her some story or listened to her own story, left. Princess Sahar thought to herself that she didn't need someone else's affection anymore, but now loneliness was filling her again. I haven't been able to come to my senses yet. There were some people who called her lunatic. There were some people who called her witch. There were some people who called her serial killer. There were also some people who called her the reincarnation of the devil. All of it in the span of 1 year, But all she did was try to prevent so many incidents from occurring and hurting others. In the end, she was blamed and falsely accused. She was now the #1 public enemy for the Empire's people. The reason she was able to attend this banquet was because of the Emperor's consideration. That was why she still couldn't get rid of her regrets. In the corner of her thoughts, she had a hope that maybe the Emperor remembered her, and he might suddenly start to look at her once again. To think you were really coming here, how shameless. Your Majesty, thank you for inviting me to this banquet. Princess Sahar still remembered in her previous life this banquet was held exclusively for her. The Emperor at that time touched Princess Sahar's cheek with a warm smile and pleaded for her eternal love. But when she returned to the past and came to this banquet again, the Emperor was not the man she remembered. Those cold eyes, that gaze as if he was seeing a disgusting bug. She only realized it only then. Yes, His Majesty still remembers me. Perhaps in his memory he only remembered her as a crazy bitch who tried to undermine and murder Saintess Bianca. Somehow, a bleak laughter escaped her mouth. Princess Sahar questioned herself about which emperor did she love. Was it the emperor before she regressed or the emperor in front of him, or both? And then after those questions, another doubt bloomed. Did she still love the same man? Or maybe she was in love with someone else. If her feeling for the emperor was nothing but an illusion, just why did she feel this miserable? She thought maybe everything had gone wrong from the moment she regressed. Even the sound of your laughter is disgusting. What's so funny? Your Majesty is still the same as before. Your Majesty resembles His Majesty the Emperor in my memory. You're talking nonsense. You always treated the woman you loved terribly. That's right, you have always been like that. Sahar waved champagne in her hand and narrowed her purple eyes. Because you resemble the man I loved in my memory a little bit too much, I was mistaken for a while. My life has been ruined in return for that illusion, so wouldn't it be better to stop now? What the hell is this crazy girl talking about? Right then, the earth shook and a tremendous roar struck the imperial palace. Bang! What's happening? One of the buildings behind the place where Princess Sahar stood suddenly collapsed in an instant. The face of Emperor Cyril turned pale. Damn it! Cyril hurriedly turned his head, and thanks to that, he could not hear Sahar's last words. Yes, you have to run to the arms of the woman you love, just like what you did at that time. A self-mocking laughter escaped Princess Sahar's mouth, but no one in this place heard it. Terrorism. As Haryun panicked and ran towards the center of the banquet hall, he pondered about what was going on. If this terrorism was caused by magic, he, the master of Magic Tower, would have noticed, but he didn't feel anything. And in the center of the banquet hall, where all the male lead gathered, of course, Saintess Bianca was sitting there. What the hell is going on? It was an event she didn't know at all. Although something was going to happen at the banquet, the terrorism incident wasn't the one. What the hell what? There's one thing that both regressors and transmigators share. It was the fact that when the future they knew started to twist, they couldn't do anything. Right at this moment, UC Autumn was deliberately changing the future. He did that to cause a difference in the future information that the transmigator held. He was going to confuse her and make her suspicious of her own knowledge. The original work has changed. Bianca, you have to get up, hurry. No, wait, I shouldn't leave this place now. An explosion erupted once, twice, thrice. It kept erupting. Different buildings were destroyed with each and every explosion. While everyone was confused, the Emperor shouted, "Everyone don't leave the banquet hall." Everyone stopped in their trails. I will go ahead and solve it. This banquet hall is protected by 7 layers of magic, so it is safe. Please stay here and wait patiently. Oh, His Majesty is resolving the situation in person. Long live your Majesty. After the Emperor said that, he twisted his body and walked away from the banquet hall. Then Haryun spoke to Bianca. There's no trace of his easygoing self on his face. Bianca, I need to go too, so please stay here and protect the people. Me. Now is not the time to hide your magic, Bianca. Got it? Your magic is greater than me, so you obviously can do it. I don't know how to use magic. Are there at least 5 or 6 terrorists? How could they use magic that I cannot detect at the same time? Mr. Swordsman, go north. I got it. Let's start quickly. The male leads began to rush to stop terrorism. This phenomenon itself was based on probability. There are so many wizards, guards, knights, and soldiers in this world, so why were the male leads always the one who solved everything? Why are the others always helpless? Of course, it was to give the male leads a chance to show off their powers. And again, the male protagonists move for Bianca. Still, wait a minute. All the male leads scattered. Bianca, who was left inside the banquet hall, looked around with bleak eyes. No, you can't go. She had never expected that a sudden terrorist attack would take place. However, she was aware to some extent that there was one more incident that would happen here. Demon Summoning Ceremony. By now, a demon summoning ceremony would have taken place in the basement of the Imperial Palace. However, even if Bianca had knowledge of the future, there was nothing she could do by herself. But Bianca herself was okay with that. Because just like in the original story, Princess Sahar would make her move. Even today, I drew a sword for His Majesty's sake. The place was painted with the blood of a black demon that had become pale under the moonlight. Ah, His Majesty the Emperor, thank you for congratulating me on my birthday. But I have work to do. For your happiness and for the happiness of the Empire. Because that was also my happiness. Bianca was sure that this time too, Princess Sahar would do that. However, what's happening? Bianca stared at Princess Sahar's serenity, who was still sipping on her champagne even in the midst of this chaos. Don't tell me, did she notice something? Bianca couldn't believe it. She was sure that Princess Sahar wouldn't know anything about the original, but why doesn't she move? Bianca thought, what if Princess Sahar didn't make her move here? The 4 male leads weren't here to protect her. Besides, she's not even the Black Lady magician they believe in. Run away. Bianca rushed towards the door. In her mind, there was nothing else but the thought about getting out from this place, or else. Saint Tesnim, please calm down. His Majesty has ordered that Saint Tesnim would never be allowed to leave the banquet hall. However, the guards and knights did not let her through. The door was tightly blocked. Then Bianca said with a pale face, "Move, get out of my way, I have to go out too." No, this is also His Majesty order. We will try our best to protect Saint Tesnim. We will never let saints. Move the demon woke up. Pardon. At the same time as Bianca's cry, the floor of the banquet hall began to crack and boom! It started to crumble. That's why just shut up and move. When Bianca was busy trying to pass through the confused guard, Princess Sahar's serenity finally drew her sword with a faint smile on her face. So it has become like this. Originally, she intended to hunt the demon as quietly as possible so that no one would notice it, but Yu Xiaodam refrained her from doing so. As late as possible, very, very late, wait until everyone is aware of the existence of the demon. Okay, understand. How can I do something like that when I know what will happen in advance? Fua, I am not sure, but I'll do it. And right at this moment, Princess Sahar was able to realize Yu Xiaodam's importance. It seems like you want to push the Saintess to the extreme. If that's the case, she would happily adhere to his words. Chapter 112. Boom, boom, boom. An accident broke out. Araceli, who was pretending to pray, raised her head at the sound of several explosions that happened. She was currently waiting in the church of the Imperial Palace because she had nothing to do with the banquet. Araceli had no idea of the future. She was neither a regressor nor a transmigrator. Even so, through her own insight as a 9th Circle Archmage who had crossed many dimensions, she was able to notice to some extent about the fact that the regressor was being driven by all the blessings of this world. Is it a simple terror incident this time? Araceli hurriedly donned a mask that stretched from her nose to the bottom of her chin. It was a slightly translucent mask, so if someone looked at her closely, they might be able to recognize that the woman behind that mask was Araceli. However, Araceli didn't think much about it, as she thought that she wouldn't run into anybody anyway. The amount of mana that resided in her body currently was only 10% compared to her original mana. But it wouldn't be a problem. Araceli was confident that she could solve this accident with only that much mana. After loosening her black hair, Araceli changed into a simple black dress and soared high into the sky after putting a pure white light all over her body. Photon movement. It was a 7-circle magic. Photon movement was a magic that would allow the caster to fly around by wrapping their body with light. During the flight, they would be able to ignore all laws of physics. They could accelerate to the speed of sound in a span of less than a second, and it was possible to make a sudden stop while at a speed of sound, ignoring even the law of inertia. As she soared high into the night sky, Araceli spread a little bit of her mana in all directions. She had always been restraining her mana usage in order to regain some mana faster, but if she put her heart into it, she could easily figure out anything in a distance of a few hundred meters. Found it. The explosion occurred in 7 buildings in total. However, Araceli noticed that there were almost no victims. No, there weren't any victims at all. In the midst of an explosion that shook the earth, there was not a single casualty. The explosion occurred only in locations that no one visited, such as the warehouse, toilet, empty reception hall, and so. It was as if the perpetrator chose those places on purpose. Araceli thought that the perpetrator might be doing this to lure her out. And finally, together with an explosion from the 8th building, Araceli could sense something she was familiar with. It was a foreign yet familiar scent of mana. It was the scent of him who she could not forget even though she had only met him a few times throughout her life. Her head was filled with confusion. However, her body was already accelerating towards him before she realized. For some reason, the pillars and walls that supported the upper floors of the 8th building were fine. The explosion swept away only the useless area as well as the entrance, as if it was done deliberately to obstruct entry. She flew silently through the Empire's night sky and finally landed on the top of the building. Finally, Araceli could see him. As I thought, the Black Lady Wizard was you all along, Araceli.
Yes.
Araceli could see that UC Autumn was looking somewhat sorry. He, who had always done things brazenly, was carrying an expression that wasn't suitable for him. Araceli thought to herself, what did he feel so sorry for? Are you going through all these hardships just to find me? Only then, Araceli realized that UC Autumn was feeling guilty towards her. A smile crept up on her face. She was thrilled because it seems like her professor knows about all of her hardships she faced while journeying through dimensions to find him. Araceli smiled brightly. She slowly approached him before hugging him tightly. Didn't I tell you before, Professor, wherever you are, I will definitely come to see you. It must be hard. No, it wasn't hard at all. UC Autumn caressed Araceli, who found comfort in his arms. She sunk into his body and embraced his neck so hard as if she wouldn't let go. Are you deliberately doing this to attract me?
Yes.
She was only half right. In the first place, UC Autumn was aware to some extent that Araceli was in this world. He heard from Princess Sahar's story that Araceli always appeared when an accident occurs. It was as if she was trying to inform someone of her existence. However, unlike other places, the churches and temples where the priestess of goddess of time and season resided, they were strictly forbidden for men. So UC Autumn had an idea. If he couldn't find her, why not make her come to him? Thus, this terror incident took place. I waited for 1 year to meet you. UC Autumn stroked Araceli's back. His heart felt heavy when he thought about all the hardships Araceli had been suffering through. She had been helping him resolve all kinds of accidents in this world, even though it was originally his mission. He had no choice but to remain silent because he didn't know if he could repay her or not. By the way, why is your mana like this?
Oh well.
UC Autumn discovered something strange about Araceli's body while he patted her back. The mana circle around her heart was completely hardened. It is the effect of using an incomplete method to cross dimension. She must have been in a hurry. She traveled through dimensions without even knowing how to go through the fragment of time and the method of condensing magic in another dimension. If she had put a little more effort, it would have been possible for her to make a safe transition. It's very unfortunate. UC Autumn wondered what could be the reason behind Araceli's hasty decision to travel through dimensions. Translator's note, bro, she kissed you already and you are still wondering, you kidding me? It's because I am not good enough. UC Autumn was taken aback. Just like the day when he met her a long time ago, her confidence was still in the gutter. You are great enough for now. Let's wait. What are you doing? Something hot was wriggling in his heart. It was mana, an unknown power that he couldn't feel a year ago. However, Autumn had never ordered it to move, and it couldn't be the work of the flower spirit because she had been hibernating to prepare to bloom. Professor, this is my mana circling technique, right?
Yes, it is. How is this?
Well, it's too complicated to explain, but there's this someone who stole your mana circling method, then someone stole it back, and that someone then passed it to other people. That was the correct explanation. But it's more advanced than my own method. There's an unknown technique mixed on it. Is it a breathing technique? Oh yeah, that's right. What are you doing now? With her eyes closed, quietly placed her ears on Autumn's chest. And Autumn also slowly patted Arakelly's back and placed his hand near her heart. And he could feel it. Arakelly was forcefully rotating his mana circle. She also absorbed the condensed mana produced by his mana circle.
How crazy.
Normally, it was very difficult to interfere with other people's mana circle because the more you try to interfere, the more the magic circle tries to repulse you. But Autumn knows. It's definitely very difficult, but it's not impossible. It was a fact that he came to realize while charging Yekaterina the other day. He was aware that he could forcefully move other people's mana circle as long as they had the same mana circling technique. However, it was also possible to do it if he and the other person shared their soul to the extent of sharing their senses. But even without using the method that Autumn knew, Arakelly was forcefully moving his mana circle regardless of his will. The thing that was transferred wasn't only mana, but also the DNA of the mana itself. Both of their mana were mixing together. The maximum amount of mana is greatly increased. Autumn's eyes widened as he felt an outrageous amount of mana embracing his body, and then he looked at Arakelly, who smiled as she closed her eyes.
It's good.
For a wizard, mana was like life. If their mana, which was the very reason for their life, gets cut off one day, the wizard will feel the pain of having their limb amputated. And the girl in Autumn's arms was traveling through the dimension while feeling this excruciating pain. And yet, she had managed to travel through the worlds with that limited amount of mana. Arakelly felt happy after a long while once she felt the sensation of her mana increasing.
Boom.
Ha, really? While bombs were still loudly exploding like a firecracker outside, Arakelly fell asleep in his arms.
And he couldn't wake her up.
Bianca, what happened? Pope Kane was always friendly towards Bianca. He often said things like, "I'll open the door, give me that bag, I'll carry it," towards her and cherished her a lot. However, it was nothing but the effect of attraction Monopoly SSS rank. Bianca was indeed a very beautiful girl, but that alone cannot make people unconditionally cherish her. But this time, something that could twist the protagonist's correction intervened, and for the first time, Pope Kane's friendliness disappeared. How did you know in advance that the devil would appear? Last night, a devil appeared in the banquet hall. The nobles who were present on the scene at that time attested that the saintess had foretold the appearance of the devil. Kane thought about how she could know that. It was unlikely that she received an oracle that even he, the Pope, did not receive.
That.
Pope Kane awkwardly asked his question to the restless Bianca. He didn't even know why he felt so awkward, but he still felt that the woman in front of him was precious and adorable. He had to make her clarify this somehow. The nobles are in an uproar. They said that you called the devil. While Bianca's plummeting image, Princess Sahar Serenity, who was previously hated by the citizens of the empire, was now on the rise because of her brave show of defeating the devil alone. Bianca chewed her nails. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She thought hard about the reason things developed this way. It was clearly different from the original. Did things become like this because I intervened? She tried to arrange the information in her head in the most reasonable way. Princess Sahar was a regressor who was currently living her second life. She wanted to be recognized by the emperor by solving the accidents using her future knowledge. In fact, Princess Sahar in the original book that Bianca remembered, she successfully solved many cases and got closer and closer to the emperor. Bianca pondered, what if emperor's love wasn't something Princess Sahar could get? What if the only thing that she would get in return for her deed was contempt? Will Sahar Serenity, the protagonist of the original work, still do the same. If I am her, I wouldn't do it. When Bianca thought of it this way, it became clear. If she put herself in Princess Sahar's shoe, she wouldn't want to keep pursuing such an unrequited love. So what should I do now? Bianca tried to remember Princess Sahar's movement. She pondered about the reason why she suddenly gave up Emperor's love and went on a completely different route compared to the original. Then Bianca remembered Princess Sahar's knight, Autumn. No way, Princess Sahar, does she have a relationship with the knight? It's ridiculous. Bianca couldn't be sure yet. However, if Princess Sahar fell in love with another man, it was understandable for her to stop pursuing the Emperor's love. If things stay like this, I will be in trouble. Bianca recalled her arduous efforts to get Princess Sahar demoted from her position as priestess in the past 1 year. If Princess Sahar regained her spirit and image and once again became priestess of goddess of time and season, there was a chance that she could also regain her return ability. Bianca couldn't let that be. She had to stop it. Wait a minute. Bianca knows that she was more lovely and beautiful than anyone else in the world. It was something she shouldn't say out loud, but when she looked at herself in the mirror, even she fell in love with herself. And among all the people who she had talked to, there was no one who wasn't completely obsessed with her. There were still a lot of people who couldn't sleep at night when they thought of her. As she thought about it, Bianca barely stopped the laughter that was about to escape from her mouth. If it is true that Princess Sahar is relying on her knight, Autumn, Bianca just needed to snatch him away from Princess Sahar. Chapter 113. Let's compare the confrontation between a regressor and a transmigrator to a game of chess. Regressor was someone who knows a lot. If we imagine their future knowledge as pawns, it would be equal to at least 20 pawns. However, pawns had a very limited power. They could easily be killed by rooks, bishops, and knights controlled by the transmigrator. When that happened, the regressor would have nothing left, while the transmigrator still has all of her pieces. The match seems to be ending. But what if, suddenly, 2 hidden horses that the transmigrator wasn't aware of intervened? It was me and Kelly. At first glance, it may seem like the 2 horses can't do anything, but what if those 2 horses were actually 2 queens? Still, no matter how strong the 2 queens were or how freely they could move, it was still impossible for them to do anything in front of 2 rooks, 2 bishops, and 2 knights. But what if, in addition to Kelly's and my intervention, the opponent also made a bad move? Let's pray. The goddess of time and season, Cater, she's the goddess who oversees the time and 4 seasons in this world. I heard that more than half of the continent believes in the Church of Time. It was difficult to imagine how large it will be, since it was also the designated religion of the empire. In the Church of Time, it was said that a saintess would appear once every 2 or 3 centuries. Saintess was the holiest woman, an existence closest to the goddess herself. It is said that she could understand and practice the word of the goddess. However, during the time when the saintess hasn't appeared, the most devoted and exemplary woman on the continent would be designated as a child of goddess. Princess Sahar's Serenity was someone who played that role. Of course, as soon as the saintess appeared, the value of the child of goddess was bound to decrease. However, from what I heard from Princess Sahar, her value was dropping outrageously compared to her first life. Even if the saintess appears, her image as the most devoted believer wouldn't just disappear all of a sudden. And eventually, Princess Sahar was deprived of all her authority and her position as child of goddess, but let's pray one more time, may our time reach them. After the incident in the royal palace, Princess Sahar was once again granted access to the Church of Time's Vatican and was qualified to pray. Although she wasn't reinstated to the position of child of goddess, she said she was satisfied as long as she could offer her prayer to goddess Cater. In the process of obtaining her qualification to pray at the Vatican, I only gave a very simple piece of advice to her. Just do nothing and wait. That really was it. Princess Sahar's sense of justice was so extraordinary. She couldn't bear to see even one person get hurt in front of her eyes. That was why she used her future information and all of her strength to prevent the accidents from occurring in advance. But in the end, the one who benefited the most from her action was the saintess, Bianca. The saintess, or the transmigrator, was also someone who possessed the knowledge of the future. She even knew how Princess Sahar would move, and in order for her to reap the most benefit from Princess Sahar's action, she had to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Last time at the banquet hall was the same. Bianca was patiently waiting for the accident to occur in order to reap the benefit from Princess Sahar's action. And when the accident occurred, Bianca, who was trying to do something, couldn't do anything, and Princess Sahar Serenity, who belatedly appeared, ended up finishing it nicely. In short, the keyword for this mission was just regressor. It means that I need to stop Princess Sahar from doing anything to confuse Bianca. Somehow I have to get Princess Sahar to regain her position as the child of goddess. In order to kill Bianca, I had to make her lose all of her abilities. Her first ability was the 4-male lead. And the second ability was time return, given by the goddess of time and season. The trigger conditions for regression were unknown. However, I couldn't overlook the chance that it might be handed down to the most devout believer. So from now on, it would be a thorough fight using future knowledge. A fight between me, who has the knowledge that even the transmigrator did not know of. Or that was what I am hoping for. Oh, Knight, you see Autumn is here too. You look really good in the uniform. When Bianca smiled as she looked at me, I greeted her back with a smile and nodded. I am flattered, but Saintess Bianca is more gorgeous today. Yeah, I had to admit that she's really pretty. However, just like how some women didn't get fooled by handsome men, there are also men who weren't fooled by beautiful appearances like me. To be honest, I was a little bit disappointed. Right now, Bianca was trying to entice me by purely relying on her charm. I expected a more sophisticated psychological warfare in which politics and the knowledge of the future would collide. Perhaps if she chose to face me in a psychological battle, I would lose. Bianca surely had the ability to do that. Moreover, I am pretty sure that she was smarter compared to me. However, I fully understand her choice of action. Her charm Monopoly SSS rank skill was her strongest weapon and the easiest way to go. But she chose the wrong opponent. After spending time with so many beautiful girls, I've become quite immune to it. On top of that, Protagonist Hunter was resisting charm Monopoly SSS rank. Who, by the way, do you have any spare time? I am planning to hold a religious group social gathering, and I want to invite you. Religious group social gathering. It seems to be a gathering that could be attended by anyone who was a believer. Even though originally I shouldn't be able to attend because it hasn't been long since I became a believer, one word from the Saintess was enough to overturn that fact. At this moment, if the knight who guards Princess Sahar was enchanted and accepted the invitation, Princess Sahar would feel completely excluded and hurt. Don't think of a traditional feudal system knight who faithfully did their job. If it was a story of a knight in the genre of romance fantasy, there was nothing impossible. Of course, how dare I reject the invitation from the beautiful Saintess? As I accepted her offer, I could see Bianca laughed like a fool and turned her gaze towards Princess Sahar. In her eyes, the figure of Princess Sahar, who stood a bit away with an anxious expression, was reflected. Have you decided the date for the social gathering yet? Well, I haven't decided yet. Good, if the date wasn't set yet, it would be easier for me. I am glad, then could you please accommodate our princess schedule? Well, what are you? If I am going to the gathering, wouldn't it be natural for my master to be there as well? Why do you look so surprised? For a brief second, I could see it's not supposed to be like this expression on Bianca's face, but she nodded her head soon after. Anyway, whether Sahar would be involved or not, I felt that it would be nice if I could spend some more time with her. Not at all, Sir. You see Autumn. Do you have a date in mind? I will set the schedule for that time. The night of the 13th day, when the moon is tilted. As I told her the date, Bianca's expression turned pale. Because Princess has no free time except for that day. If not that day, it would be possible only when the moon was tilted 3 more times. Then I could see Bianca knot her eyebrows and bite her nail. This was a kind of psychological warfare and gambling, so I swallowed my saliva too. If Bianca gives up on me here and goes into a political war, things could get worse. Is there any reason why that day doesn't work? If so, it can't be helped. Reason, of course there is, but how could she say in advance that there would be a great crisis that would befall on the Empire on that day? Bianca stared at me with calm but bloodshot eyes. It was as if she was asking, "Do you know something?" I answered her questioning gaze with, "I am just meeting the princess schedule." Bianca looked around. People were paying attention towards her. The believers know that she had no schedule on that day, but if she said it is not possible for no reason here, she would get mistaken for canceling the social gathering just because Princess Sahar participated. At present, Princess Sahar's image was recovering thanks to her success in the previous accident. Many believers were also curious about her answer. And then Bianca answered, "All right." Eventually, Bianca had no choice but to accept my proposal. If the other person made a bad move, I was confident that I could take advantage of it as much as possible. It was postponed. After the time for the prayer session was over, U.C. Autumn said so. Princess Sahar sighed as she recalled the calm expression on U.C. Autumn. Up until this day, she didn't know who he truly was. She doesn't know whether his name was real or fake, or even if his knighthood was authentic. It's just one day, he suddenly showed up and showed herself which way she had to tread, and without even realizing it, Princess Sahar was already following his direction. Princess Sahar still remembered what he said. "I came to kill the Saintess." It was a ray of hope for her. However, Princess Sahar lied by saying, "I am not curious," because she didn't want him to know her anxious heart. However, U.C. Autumn chuckled as if he knew that she was lying and said, "I just told you because I wanted to say it." Hearing that, there was something else that Princess Sahar wanted to say. It was, "Your Majesty, the Emperor said the same thing as you, but he left and he completely forgot me," but she couldn't say it. Princess Sahar sighed. The feeling inside her chest was nothing but an obsession towards their relationship. She had lost everything. She had lost everyone. The few people who still remained were those who were sent by the Empire to watch her over. She had always thought that she would live the rest of her life alone. Her heart was so desolate that even if only one person was left there, their presence would surely be huge. Princess Sahar looked at her own mansion outside the window. Duchess Serenity residence was clearly visible from the Temple of Time. Even though the residence was located in the capital of the empire, it was so shabby and desolate. Somehow, Princess Sahar recalled the excuses she gave to U.C. Autumn because she was embarrassed of the fact. "My mansion is not lonely. Even though everyone has gone, the place is still there. And this place has not been touched by humans for so long. You can see the trace of passing time here. In other words, I am in this place together with time." However, U.C. Autumn simply tilted his head and said, "Ah, so in other words, you are embarrassed, right? I'll pretend I don't know." He was an understanding man. However, he didn't have any shred of sense. At that time, she remembered the laughter came out from her mouth unknowingly, but she had no choice but to keep it in. And there was one more thing that he said to her. It was the fact that he was leaving sooner or later. After he rescued her who fell into hell and escorted her towards the light of the world once again, he would leave. So Princess Sahar had to refrain herself from prying deep into his life. The episode The Fallen Angel 4 begins. Is it starting soon? Unlike U.C. Autumn, who had a bright expression on his face, Bianca's forehead was trickling with cold sweat. Perhaps, just like what night U.C. Autumn had told her, Saintess Bianca seems like she also knows the future. But now, that doesn't matter. Princess Sahar shifted her gaze from Saintess Bianca toward the reddish sky above. She stood up as her hand clenched the handle of the sword tightly. While other attendees wore a pretty and loose-fitting dress, Princess Sahar wore a tightly wrapped dress in order to hide the combat suit that stuck to her body underneath. Her eyes darted towards her vicinity for a moment. Indeed, the capital city of the empire was a beautiful place. She still remembers, in her previous life, this place was thoroughly destroyed. At that time, the sky split open and an eerie red light painted the world. Right after that, a creature with white wings came out from the gap in the sky. Its wings were really beautiful and splendid, just like an angel's. But Princess Sahar Serenity knew it was an adversary and a demon summoned by the dark cult. In the banquet hall accident the other day, in order to directly punish the dark cult who endanger Saintess Bianca, the 4 male leads who were hailed as the strongest in the entire empire left the banquet hall. However, the problem was, in the end, they couldn't prevent the dark cult from causing an accident inside the empire. And the biggest problem was today. Princess Sahar remembered that she fought desperately against the devil. In the midst chaos of people getting slaughtered and nobles as well as knights being cut down, she never let go of her sword. But in the end, the last person standing was the Saintess. Unlike the Saintess of this timeline, who was known for being gentle and calm, the Saintess in her previous life was famous for her evil and dirty personality. At the moment when she defeated the demon, she remembered that the Saintess appeared with a splendid glow and sprinkled her beautiful divine power to the world. Everyone praised and worshipped the Saintess instead of her who had defeated the demon. Since then, I've been being thoroughly used by the Saintess. But her previous life and the life she lived right now were completely different. This time, Princess Sahar had a man named Audium with her. Crack, crackle, boom. When a terrible blood-red demon with pure white wings emerged from the crack in the sky, the entire capital of the empire, including the venue of the social gathering, was quickly engulfed in chaos. Because of the majesty of that great devil, ordinary people were forced to their knees and couldn't even lift their head. A desperate cry could be heard from everywhere. What is that? It's a demon has appeared. Save! Someone screamed at the top of their lungs. Someone barely managed to get up and tried to run away but fell down soon after, and most of the people fell into despair and sat down. However, just as usual, people called one name. Saintess! Saintess, please save us. They had no choice but to believe that this time too, the Saintess would save them. Alright that. Saintess Bianca struggled to keep her calm. Her eyes were trembling. Perhaps the Saintess had some plan in mind, because Princess Sahar remembered that the priestess wouldn't die here. And even though she knew about this incident in advance, she was forced to come to this place thanks to Audium's scheme. Perhaps her plan was something along the line of hiding her body. Perhaps she could disappear and the Black Wizard Lady would reappear just when Princess Sahar successfully defeats the devil. However, Bianca could only use that plan if the Black Wizard Lady moved according to her plan. However, the Black Wizard Lady, or Arakeli, wouldn't move according to her plan this time. And Princess Sahar wouldn't let such an opportunity go to waste. Saintess, let's fight together. That demon is much weaker than you think. With your magic and my swordsmanship, we will be able to stop it without any damage. That Bianca had always denied that she was the Black Wizard Lady. However, she never clearly denied it. It was only a half-serious and half-joking denial, so people still believed that she was the Black Wizard Lady. Why, if we don't get going now, something big will happen. And here, Princess Sahar once again engraved that fact on everyone. That moment, the wizard appeared. From the sky, a magician with black hair appeared with a brilliant glow. Arakeli, who took off her mask and was dressed in a bright black dress that was requested by Audium, was the horse on this playfield. With an embarrassed look on her face, she raised a cane that she would never use normally, but she did so this time in order to make her face visible to everyone. Then, an intense firecracker with a complex shape and numerous colors made from ninth circle magic permeated the whole world. I have appeared. Immediately after she said so, cheers burst out. Whoa! The Lady Wizard appeared. Now no one paid attention to the Saintess. Everyone found out that the Saintess and the Black Wizard Lady were two completely different people. And then Princess Sahar snorted at her while turning her head, and Saintess Bianca squeezed her hair with a pale expression. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Chapter 114. Every time an accident occurs in the Empire, a mysterious black-haired wizard always appears like a comet to solve everything before once again disappears. But what if her identity, who everyone thought as Saintess Bianca, was actually someone else? Saintess Bianca had always been popular. Probably even without the fame she gained as Black Wizard Lady, her popularity would always be high thanks to the protagonist's correction. However, Saintess Bianca was too greedy. She wanted to monopolize even the small interest held by the title Black Wizard Lady. As a result, the Black Wizard Lady received more attention thanks to Bianca. In case Bianca clearly said I am not the black wizard lady, the black-haired female wizard would only end up as a heroic character. She wouldn't be as famous as she was right now because Saintess Bianca's charm monopoly SSS rank skill would steal all of her popularity. Are you the black wizard lady? You are as beautiful as the rumor says. Please that title please ass. Araceli bowed down in order to hide her betrayed face. Mouse hole no, any type of hole would do. She really wanted to go in and hide. The reason she covered her face with a mask in the first place was because she was so embarrassed of her title as Black Wizard Lady. Even back in her original world, she really hated it when people called her Great Sage Nim or Grand Wizard Nim, so how could she be okay with such a childish nickname? However, it wasn't the end. She was asked by UC Autumn to appear in the night sky of the capital city of the Empire wearing a frilly, glamorous, and eye-catching black dress. Originally, UC Autumn asked for something like in the name of love and justice. Araceli had appeared, but she couldn't say it because it was too embarrassing. She ended up with an ambiguous line like I have appeared. As a result, UC Autumn was very disappointed. But Araceli herself was sure that she had succeeded in attracting the attention of a large number of people. And her thought was spot on. Pope Cain had personally invited her to meet him. In addition, when the fact about her being a priestess as well as the maid of Saintess Bianca was revealed to the world, the public was once again turned upside down. Of course, UC Autumn's action played a big part there. Bianca, who felt like fire was lit underneath her feet, was desperate to make UC Autumn come to her side. She thought that it was the only way to bring Princess Sahar back to the depth of the abyss. So, Saintess Bianca kept meeting UC Autumn every day for a date. Thanks to that, Bianca's passive skill charm Monopoly SSS rank was constantly being disturbed by UC Autumn's Protagonist Hunter skill and couldn't work properly. Thus, those who were unable to maintain their sanity due to charm Monopoly SSS rank were able to turn their attention to other places little by little. In other words, UC Autumn was planning to return the popularity that was concentrated on Bianca to Princess Sahar and Araceli. On a side note, something outside the range of UC Autumn's prediction was happening. Since when did I fall in love with Saintess Nim? It was only a slight doubt, but all the male lead who had come to question themselves had turned their eyes to a different place altogether. Do you know this was taken the last time the Black Lady appeared? No, I don't know it at all, and I really hate it. It came out pretty right. Please get rid of that. When he talked with Araceli, Pope Cain felt something was growing in his heart. While Saintess Bianca felt like a pure flower that couldn't be touched and an existence so beautiful even when she did nothing but exist, Araceli was different from her. Araceli responded to whatever he said. She was very different from Saintess Bianca, and it was a very stimulating experience for Pope Cain. Pope Cain wasn't the only one who showed such interest towards Araceli. After the meeting with the Pope was concluded, Araceli, who was exhausted, tried to leave the church. However, a large crowd was waiting for her in front of the church. She could hear some people who say, "Wow, it's the Black Wizard Lady," as soon as they found her. Her face was reddened in embarrassment once again, so she bowed down once again and ran away. To think I'm role-playing as a magical girl at this age. Araceli ran for a long time before arriving at a garden. She leaned her tired body against a white pillar and ran into someone who was waiting for her. He was Harrigan, a sixth circle wizard who was hailed as a genius among geniuses and was also the chief wizard of the Imperial Palace as well as the Tower Master. And the man, who was called to be very emotionally expressive, was also interested in Araceli. He smiled gently and approached Araceli. Then, he put a black rose in Araceli's ear. All the flowers in the garden had withered. No, they were not truly withered. It was because of you, the most beautiful flower in this garden, that all the flowers seem to be dead. Why did you bloom more beautifully than other flowers? This black rose will wither, but you will not. Perhaps his line might have worked if it was said in a romantic genre 50 years ago, not now. Even Araceli, who was completely unaware about romance, didn't feel thrilled at the line that seemed to be dripping with cheesiness. Ah, Professor, this wizard is going to kill me by shriveling time and space up. Araceli eagerly looked for Yu Autumn with a pale face, but he couldn't be found anywhere. Ah, wait a minute. Araceli, who was filled with a desire to chop his tongue, suddenly came up with a good idea. Not everything in this world should necessarily go according to Yu Autumn's will. Obviously, he was smart and good at planning operations, but that doesn't mean that Araceli herself was with him either. In addition, she was quite angry towards Yu Autumn, who put her in this position. Araceli slowly raised her head. She forced herself to smile and said to Haryun, "Are you making a move on me?" Yurei speaking straightforwardly, Yurei definitely different from other noble ladies. Of course I am, by the way. Aren't you already in a relationship with Saintess Bianca? Sorry. Haryun's eyes opened wide. He never thought that he would hear that question here. Araceli was aware that Bianca's charm was temporarily sealed under the influence of Yu Autumn. She knew that their interest in her was a temporary thing, but Araceli wondered what would happen if she sowed a seed of doubt in these men's hearts while Bianca's charm wasn't active. Oh, that's that. Well, you could do that because Saintess Bianca was also playing with another man. Then Haryun's expression gradually distorted. What are you talking about? Saintess Bianca was quite thorough with her relationship with the male leads. Perhaps it was the handiwork of protagonist correction. When she met with Man 1, Man 2, 3, and 4 would never notice. Or when she met Man 2, Man 1, 3, and 4 would never know. The fact that she met another man would never be heard by the ears of the other man. Even if it became known, it would be easily forgot. However, that correction was now restricted because of Yu Autumn. Did you not know him? Ah, this is something I really am not supposed to say. What is it, please? Tell me, please. Ah, I really shouldn't say this. You can't tell anyone, okay? Araceli smiled slyly. It was not exactly a secret. Everyone in the continent except for the 4 male lead knows about it. It was just Saintess Bianca's usual behavior. You know, recently a lot of people saw Saint Bianca meeting Yu Autumn the night of Duchess Serenity. Don't you think that the two of them are like, really? I can't tell you. You can't ever say that you heard it from me, okay? Okay. It was a very strange feeling. Haryun was very confused about this whole situation where he couldn't control his mind. Who's the one who had my heart? That question was a problem he couldn't find the right answer to. So as Haryun stood still with a blank expression, Araceli left the garden hurriedly. She smiled and turned back towards the church. I should say the same to the Pope. At almost the same time, Princess Sahar Serenity was facing Emperor Serenity in the Imperial Palace. Your Majesty, may I ask why you called me? The warm wind that caressed Princess Sahar's skin made her feel drowsy. The white flower garden over the terrace looked like it was created just for her. If it's not her, who else would fit into that flower garden? The moment she entered this place, she had already become the owner of this flower garden. As she looked at the swaying curtains, Princess Sahar put her lips on a teacup with a pattern of the sun. As those red lips slowly took in the black tea, Cyril slowly opened his mouth. I called you because I wanted to express my gratitude for what you've done the other day. It would have been nice if you wrote it in a letter as usual, Your Majesty. Yes, it may be so, but I really wanted to look at your face while saying it. Yes, if it is Your Majesty's call, it is my duty to immediately appear before you. Since I already heard Your Majesty's gratitude, may I leave? I apologize for wasting your precious time on me. You can't do that. The thing that happens right at this moment was something that Princess Sahar really had been hoping for. She turned back time and lived her second life in hopes for this, the Emperor's recognition. She had been living a life full of despair till now. No matter how hard she tried, the Emperor never looked at her. He had abandoned her, and after a long deliberation, she finally gave up and accepted the fact that she would die a lonely death. But after trampling and ruining her dream, now you are finally showing interest to me. Princess Sahar originally expected that she would feel some kind of satisfaction when this happened. She also thought that her heart would be pounding and fluttering in front of His Majesty, the Emperor's sharp yet warm obsession again, just like back then. But not at all. After she removed the skin that wrapped it, she found that the inside was ugly and dirty. The Emperor's interest felt disgusting to Princess Sahar, who was well aware that his feelings for Bianca had disappeared briefly thanks to Yu Autumn. Princess Sahar scoffed. She asked herself, For what did I work hard for who did I turn the time back, just what have I done? Everything she had done so far was useless. She pitied herself for loving a man like him.
Ha ha ha.
A self-mocking laughter leaked out from her mouth. It was unavoidable, so the Emperor Cyril saw her laughter as well.
What's so funny?
In fact, I had a problem. She didn't want to look at his face anymore. Rather, there was one face she wanted to see more. It was the face of the man who forcibly dragged her back from the depths of the abyss. Princess Sahar thought about him, who was probably in the middle of a date right now. Princess Sahar opened her eyes wide and clenched her fists in tightly. She was aware that Yu Xiaodam was busy acting for her own sake right now. After recalling how considerate he is, Princess Sahar could hardly forgive Saintess Bianca. What are you worrying about? Your Majesty is a very good man. It is an honor for me to have gained your interest. But is it okay for you to be like this? What are you talking about? From what I can see, Your Majesty seems to have chosen to spend all of his life together with Saintess Bianca. Oh yes, it is because we have a good relationship between us. That's not the problem, Your Majesty. As Cyril frowned, Princess Sahar smiled subtly and opened her mouth. What I want to say is that my guardian knight Yu Xiaodam and Saintess Bianca are currently on a date right now. Unlike his usual expressionless face, Cyril's eyes opened wide. Looking at that, Princess Sahar laughed. She was truly happy. And from now on, she feels like she'll be really happy. Chapter 115. The plan I originally devised was something like this. I would stick around Saintess Bianca to suppress her charm, monopoly SSS rank skill, and gradually reduce her popularity. Thus, the presence of Princess Sahar and Araceli would increase. It had been more than 2 months since I came here, and I think I'd done quite a lot of work in that span of time. Just the other day, Princess Sahar successfully became an incarnation of justice after wrapping up the Fallen Angel episode, and Bianca's popularity plummeted further thanks to Araceli's brilliant debut. That accident wasn't the only one. There were also quite a lot of other events that took place since then, and each time I thought I was pretty successful in shaving Bianca's popularity. However, not everything in this world would move according to my plan. My current method wasn't enough to make a significant dent in Bianca's popularity, which she had built for a year after her transmigration. Her popularity around the empire was as high as Eiffel Tower, as she was loved by virtually everyone. And in order to bring her down, I need a more efficient way. As someone who lived in Korea and had watched 9 o'clock news for the last 30 years, there were several methods that I could think of, such as spreading false facts, nasty rumors, or even fabricating a non-existent story that could affect Bianca's daily life. However, I couldn't use those methods. In order to re-establish Princess Sahar as child of goddess and at the same time reducing the power that Bianca held as a saintess so that she could not use regression, I need something more political, but I simply couldn't think of anything right now. At first glance, the protagonist hunting mission might look like just another mission with slightly better rewards. However, it actually had a tremendous risk that follows along, which is, it was almost impossible for me to return to Earth if I failed the hunt. Excluding the hunt of Supreme Dharma, the other missions that I received so far always had a high success rate, but lately the success rate has become quite frustrating. In particular, in this mission, Saintess Bianca was the worst protagonist I ever met. I had to admit, for someone like me who only trained my hunting skills throughout my life, Saintess Bianca, who was quite skillful in terms of politics and fame management, was like a 4-dimensional wall that could not be overcome. Knight Yu Xiaodam.
Yes.
I turned my head towards Bianca, who called me. Even though right now I was enjoying the sight of cherry blossoms together with a beautiful woman at the lakeside, I couldn't help but feel miserable. Have you thought about the suggestion I told you before? Some time ago, she asked me to be her guardian knight. In other words, she asked me to abandon Princess Sahar, and if I do that, Princess Sahar would cut my body into 2 parts. Am I crazy enough to accept something like that? Of course not. I am sorry to say this because of our relationship, but I am sorry, I cannot abandon my master. Ah, I see. Seeing how loyal you are, I think you are a true knight of this era. The two of us really have no interest in each other. We just approached each other in order to use each other. It was obvious to tell just by looking at her bloody eyes. So the quite tense date continued. However, someone with pale countenance suddenly appeared from the bush. It seems like both of you are enjoying your date. It was Emperor Cyril. For a second, thanks to his sharp eyes and bright red lips that looked like he just finished drinking blood, I thought he was a vampire. But in the next moment, I was already kneeling on my knees with my hand crossing to my chest, and said in a mechanical voice, "I see the highest son of the empire." This was the etiquette to greet the emperor in this country. Cyril slowly looked between me and Bianca before spitting out some words. "Are you happy?" Bianca's complexion quickly turned pale. I also started sweating as I had a hard time enduring this thrilling atmosphere. Oh my god. Even in romance fantasy genre, jealousy between one male lead and the other was nothing but a common cliché. There should be no cases where other male lead intrudes during a date like this. Moreover, I was not one of the male lead, and Bianca was someone who was completely protected by protagonist correction. I think this development was the result of me breaking the protagonist correction. Your Majesty, well, this is. Seeing the confusion on Bianca's face, an idea suddenly came to my mind. It's a very, very dangerous idea, but if I pulled it right, there's a chance it would have pretty good effect. If I did something wrong, I may be in trouble, but there's no other way left for me. It was make it or break it now. I tried to hide the cold sweat that ran on my body and said, "Your Majesty, Saintess Bianca and I are lovers." With that, what are you talking about? Of course, it was a lie. There's no way we were lovers when we didn't even have any interest in each other. We only enjoyed meeting each other on a date. But like people said, politics could only be won by those who instigate and fabricate. Why do you Saintess Bianca? Have you forgotten your promise at that time? Oh no, that's not it, but did we have anything going on between us? Then what about all the time we'd spent together? I wonder what her answer will be. When I lifted my head and looked at the Emperor, he was also looking at me with a terrifying expression. After that, he looked at Bianca. If the situation had been the same as before, Cyril would have felt endless love for Bianca no matter what happens. But because of my interference, the Charm Monopoly SSS rank skill couldn't work properly, so his feelings should be in a mess right now. Bianca, is that true what the knight said? Is it true? It's not true, Your Majesty. Whether it was true or not, it doesn't matter anymore. The important thing was that the Saintess was caught having a date on the lakeside with me, and it was obvious that there was no need to talk about whose words were more credible. Saintess, where all the times we've been together is nothing but a lie. In addition to that, what if I act like an abandoned dog? Looks like my gamble worked rather well. The plan completely changed. In every mission, I had always been pursuing the safest and most effective way. But now I had to take a completely different approach, a high risk and high return. This method certainly had a high risk. I could be buried by the male lead both literally and politically, but what can I do? I had no method left. It was either sink or swim. So I'll use it, the fastest way to bury a celebrity, a scandal. On top of it, it was an infidelity scandal. Really, is that true to think Saintess Bianca is having an affair? I told you it's true, Faya, and it wasn't only 1 or 2 times. The night over there was also managed by the Saintess Nim. Of course, since the Saintess wasn't married yet, it couldn't be called an affair, but that was why the whole thing was rather exciting for the bystanders. A Saintess who must stay away from men actually had secret encounters with numerous men in an empire where there's no news and no games. Could there be any gossip more interesting than this? You know, I saw Saintess Bianca having a date with the Tower Master too. Seriously, I heard she also went for a walk to Sahilan Garden with the Pope. Only after the rumor spread like a wildfire did Araceli told me that all the male lead had noticed Bianca's relationship even before the rumor started. What, you told them, you crazy? Yeah, I did that because Professor kept making me do something weird. I mean, I am aware that I was a little bit out of the line, but how could you trigger those crazy for-love bastards? At first, I was very taken aback, but after pondering about the situation, it could certainly be used. I am someone who was very tough and persistent and knew how to eat the rice cake that was given to me. Let's spread the rumor more. The main purpose was to do some damage to Bianca's fame by using people's mouth, and the real goal was to get the rumors into the ears of the male lead. Bianca, who they thought is their own woman, turned out to be playing around with 5 guys at the same time. It was natural the fire fell on the feet of the male lead. I know it would turn out like this. There was no woman around her. Did she try to fill it all with men? Even such insignificant facts that are usually taken for granted become a delicious prey for the bystander. I thought about it once again and became certain. Rumor breeds another rumor, and as the rumor spreads more, people will no longer care for the fact. People literally bite on everything because it was something they enjoy. I didn't feel sorry towards Bianca at all, because it was exactly the same things she did to Princess Sahar. She just reaped what she had sown. On my way back to the Duchess' residence, a single note was delivered to me. On it, beautiful writing could be found. Please come to this place at the time when the sun sinks in the clouds. It was a note from Saintess Bianca. The location of their meeting would be the third temple, which is located on the outskirts of the capital. It was a desolate place which was rarely visited by people. This place was prepared by Bianca to meet me. Perhaps because of the rumors that were circulating all over the empire, she tried to find me rather quickly. I was wondering where she hid, but she was there. Well, in this situation, it was natural for her to find me first. However, I still didn't know what her purpose was. Is it perhaps to rely on me or to reprimand and scrutinize me? She called me secretly, and in common sense it would be normal for me to go secretly unless I want to die in a fight between the Emperor, the Tower Lord, the world's best swordsman, and the Pope. But unfortunately, I wasn't a normal knight, and I had no intention of meeting her secretly. I walked with very imposing steps until just a few meters away from the meeting location. Then, I pretended to sneak and entered the secret meeting place of her and me. In this temple, which was built around 100 years ago, I could see vines growing on the walls and also moss-like things between the pillars that are broken in half. With the hue of setting over the horizon, the black-haired lady really received a lot of buffs for her appearance today. Saintess, you are here, I really miss you. Saying that, I approached Bianca and stroked her cheek. This scene could have been a very, very romantic scene if it weren't for the 4 male lead who suddenly appeared. Saintess Bianca took a step back, her eyes bulged as wide as the Pacific Ocean. They appeared in the temple very quietly. The Tower Master was floating in the sky, the Swordmaster sat on the broken pillar with stern expression, the Emperor confidently opened the front door and slowly walked in, and the Pope was leaning on the statue of the goddess. Wow, I put great effort into the scene earlier because I was afraid that they weren't the male leads. But look at them, do they think it's cool to be so pretentious and openly show off their powers like that? Ah, Your Majesty the Emperor, even Your Holiness, the Pope. I acted like I was seriously taken aback and stepped back. Then, I slipped my hand into the handle of the ether blade. From here and on, it has become really irreversible. Saintess, didn't you promise me your love? You're a talking bullshit, Pope. She decided to look only at me. If you say some bullshit again, I'll cut your lips. Bianca, my fiancée, just what the hell happened? Were all the brilliant and beautiful memories that blossomed between us, was it all false? Tower Master, Saintess Bianca has not blossomed memories with you, so please quietly withdraw. Bianca's complexion became paler at every ticking moment. The 4 male leads poured out their energy and the atmosphere quickly became bloody. Warning: a strong clash of probability is expected. The Protagonist Hunter is advised to leave promptly. I swallowed my saliva. The Saintess was slowly stepping back as she muttered something. I couldn't hear what she said in detail, all I could hear was yes, I have to start over, and she was looking somewhere. I don't know what she's thinking, but I couldn't let it be. When I took out my ether sword to stop her, someone pointed a sword to my neck. It was the world's best swordsman, Sodier. Where are you going? Hi. I laughed wryly. I feel like I am going to be caught up in the dogfight too. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.